What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush. Let's talk Jets. Hope everybody's having a great weekend. I think yesterday my sweat was sweating. It was so hot in New Jersey. And now today you need like 14 umbrellas because it's pouring. But summertime weather, you got to find something to do, right? So I always go down these rabbit holes on YouTube. And I came across a really interesting interview with Sauce Gardner from Ryan Clark and the Pivot podcast. And it was fascinating, man, because we all know about Sauce's actions on the field, right? All pro, Defensive Rookie of the Year, Pro Bowl, all these great accolades. Voted one of the top corners in the game, and as a rookie, then you're starting to learn more about his mindset behind it, and it's so impressive, man. Like they really pressed him on his background, how he handles himself, last year, how he's gonna handle himself this year, and what he wants to do going forward. And it was interesting because you figure Sauce is a building block for the New York Jets. He is one of your core members that you want to, the emerging leader that is going to help dictate what this team is going to be in the future. Is this going to be a winning organization? Once Aaron Rodgers leaves, what's the future going to be? Like, what is this core? What is the tradition? What is their culture? All these things. And Sauce is a big part of that. And it was a really great interview because he breaks it down very simply. They're like, what makes you tick? Like, what separates you from everybody else? And he always talks about the attention to details, all the little things. And I remember this last year because primetime and I would go to practice. Sauce Gardner was always the first guy on the field by 15 minutes on the field, warming up, going through mental things, stretching out. He was always that. And he focuses on everything. Like he's a technician of the game. Like we watched last year, I think it was Kyle Pitts burned him on a drill. He's standing right in front of me. Like he was supposed to come off that rep. He ran right over to the coach. He's like, what'd I do wrong? I got to fix it. I want to go back out there again. And it was like the third string was going on. He went out with the third string. He wants to improve day in and day out and get better. And he has that like tenacious mindset where he doesn't ever want to get complacent. And they talked about him as a rookie. How do you become a leader? How do you earn the name Sauce? And he's like, I'm not going to talk until he sets the tone with his actions. He's like, an actions, not words. He's like, I'm going to be better than everybody else. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to do all this. And people will respect me that way. And then once they respect me, maybe they'll listen to me. And then I'll start like opening up more. He said when he first got there, like CJ Mosley, DJ Reed, they were all the veteran leaders, and he was finding his way. And then once he found his way, they said, listen, man, you have what it takes. Speak your mind. Help this team. Become the leader that we know you are. And it was really, really interesting to hear that. The other thing that was interesting was they asked him about, like, how he helps others, like other players on his team, like him and Garrett Wilson go back and forth, and they're ultra competitive. And an interesting comment was, they're like, well, you guys are both Rookie of the Year. He's like, that was last year. Like, we don't care about last year. You got to turn the page. And that's really important with a young player like that, where you talk about sometimes guys have a sophomore slump or something like that. And he's very aware of all that. He's like, no. We're done with that. We're not going to be like, we accomplished something. We didn't accomplish anything. We didn't win a ring. Like, it's all about championships, right? But so the other thing he talked about was if he sees, like, say, like a Stingley in with the Lions, with the Texans, or Tariq Woolen, or, they're all, if he sees them in a game, like they're playing against each other and they're doing something wrong, he won't tell them then. But after the game, he'll reach out and say, hey, listen, man, I was watching you play. Here's a tip of how you can improve your game. And Ryan Clark and those guys are like, what are you, nuts? That's your opponent. He's like, listen, if I can help somebody get better, I want them to get better. He's like, because I want them to do the same thing for me. Like, that's, like, if somebody sees something I'm doing wrong, I want them to help me. Like, you can't be like me against the world. Like, you're all competitors, but if you can help somebody, you got to give back to the game, give back to the player. And that was so mature and so impressive for a young kid to say that. It's remarkable, because we see that in the gym sometimes, where you have fighters are so ridiculously talented, they'll literally watch somebody do something wrong and not help them. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, dude, you see what he's like, so now I'll go help him. But like, for Sauce to have that mindset is really, really interesting. The other thing that was really interesting is like he talked about Aaron Rodgers, where it was like, how does Aaron Rodgers is so old? How do you guys have anything in common? And he's like, Rodgers is super cool. He's like, he's got a pep in his step. He's young. He's very relatable. Like, everybody assumes like he's this standoffish guy, but he's down to earth. They joke around, they're best friends. And it's like you see all the different things about Sauce, and he's very calculated, he's very motivated, he's very aware. He takes care of himself, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He understands the world that he's in. Like, he talked about coming to the Jets and going to New York. He researched New York. He's like, what am I getting myself into? Because he wants to isolate all the outside noise. He'll see things on social media, but he's like, you know what? I know what I need to do to get that next big contract to take care of my family for the rest of their lives. So he's focused, he's concentrated. It's a really good interview, man, and it makes you feel so good about him as a player. Like with him, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, all these, like, the future is so bright for the Jets, obviously health permitting, but it's encouraging. Like, this is, like, for years, like, I was always I'm rambling right now. For years, I was always a big fan of the Ravens and how because they had that culture. I would go down to the games down there, because only 3 out when the Jets played down there, and, like, they have that tradition. Like, you go to the Baltimore Ravens, they're going to be hard-nosed, well-coached, physical, home games are chaos. Like, that. And for the Jets, we haven't had an identity in forever, since the Rex years. So think about it. It's been, a decade? Because we don't, like, no face of the franchise. There's really no trend on offense, no trend on defense, no superstars, no playmakers. And now you have guys like Quinn Williams you just re-signed that's going to be a building block, but that has that passion and love for the game and wants to make everybody better. So I highly recommend watching the Sauce Gardner interview. It's really, really good, the Pivot podcast. And then after that, if you're not a bigger fan, like, you're obviously, he's a great player. The other thing too, he talked about going to Green Bay wearing the cheesehead, and he's like, I'm a rookie, man. Like, I didn't realize that this was a famed stadium and, all the history behind it. He's like, you learn, like, we're young, we're learning. We don't, like, they didn't grow up in the, the Brett Favre days, all this stuff. Like, a lot of things they don't know. And he's like, and then as you get, after the rookie year, you learn things and you get better. And he's like, he never wanted to use the rookie year as an excuse. Like, well, you're a rookie, you're supposed to play poorly, or you're supposed to make dumb mistakes. He's like, he didn't want to use that as an excuse, but he's like, it's an opportunity, man. He's like, I learned from it. And now he's maybe next time I'll do it, maybe next time I won't. But now I know the ramifications of doing it. So really cool interview. Huge fan of Sauce. I cannot wait. Training camp starts this week. I'll be live tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with a special guest. We'll be doing all kinds of streams, videos, maybe a training camp meetup. And that's it. Talk to you guys later.